Welcome to Embrace the Spiritual podcast. Join friends Michelle and Dawn as they share tips on how you too can open your heart, raise your vibration, and reclaim your sovereignty. Hear what they have experienced and overcome in their spiritual journeys while navigating this expansive spiritual multiverse. Discover how they transform their soul lessons from ordinary into extraordinary.
Follow, subscribe, and share. Embrace the Spiritual on all podcast streaming services, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Go to embracethespiritual.com for additional content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression or raw Reiki session, contact Dawn on her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com, and Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com. Welcome back to Season 2, Embrace the Spiritual. Hope you all got caught up on Season 1 episodes. We discussed lots of information to help with your spiritual foundation. Let's face it, the things that you can do on a daily basis and just start breaking down those patterns and programming that we've lived through. No fault of anybody. It's just what we were exposed to, and we're here to break down some walls and get through that. And this episode, what we wanted to do is talk about, now that you have those foundational pieces, what you might be experiencing as part of your spiritual growth. So we don't want to make any assumptions of, oh, I got these aches and pains, or these things are showing up in my life, and we dismiss them as just things going on, just chaos or noise in our everyday lives. But they actually might be part of your spiritual awakening and spiritual growth. And I think it's important to really know what those things are, because once you're aware that something is happening because of a spiritual growth, then next episode, we can talk about a little thing called manifesting. So it's very important, if you understand things that you're experiencing as part of your growth, you can actually move through them faster and get onto those things that you want to manifest and help manifest them possibly quicker than without this kind of knowledge.
And I think a lot of people get stuck on the bad things are happening to me because of some karma that I've had to deal with, or this just programming that we think that's normal, but it's not. When things happen, it's a wake-up call. I mean, even if it's minor, like a interaction with somebody that you don't feel that went right, or somebody road raging. There is a lesson in everything, and you just have to know what it is. Like yesterday, I was driving to work, and not one, but two people ended up road raging and going around this white car. And the white car was obviously rattled. You could see that, these people blew past him. One ran a yellow light, swerved around me, almost flipped his car. And I just think in those moments, I never want to be that person. And I know it's easy to get caught up in being angry at somebody else for not doing what you want them to do, but maybe they need to do what they're doing because they're lost. They're right by their house, and that's why they're driving the way they are. Or maybe they're distracted on their cell phone or on drugs or something. So we all have to look at things in a broader perspective, and there's a reason that somebody is acting the way that they are, and how you choose to react to them is how you control that situation. So I just stayed back, giving that white car space because I felt that they needed it in that time and moment, because they were obviously rattled. And I was kind of rattled too, especially since the one Jeep had gone around me to blow through the yellow light to hit the gas and go faster. So it's just these learning lessons that you don't expect at times, but it's a good reminder that we're all here to learn. We're all on a path of leveling up. And sometimes that leveling up is not as beautiful and glorious as you think it would look. And sometimes it's dirty and muddy and gross, but that's okay. Like, this is how life is supposed to be. And there is beauty in everything. And I'm just grateful that I got to see that moment and give that car space. And they ended up pulling over because I think that they ended up not knowing where they were. And I gave them wide berth as I went around them because I wanted to honor them. I would have been shooken up too, how I handled that situation.
No, and I think that's a great example, because I would dare say the majority of our listeners, and I know I've been in that situation myself, been on both sides of that kind of road rage. You get frustrated because someone's, as you say, not driving the way that you think. Well, it's kind of egoic for us to think that we should be controlling somebody else's behavior. But I think we've talked about that in the past. But I think one of those spiritual growth things that is important to bring up is that not everything is black and white, right? We always say there's two sides to every story. Absolutely. But there's also more, like you're just looking at a snapshot in time, like Dawn said. So that person, they could have just lost a family member and they're driving home and their mind's all over the place. Like, we don't know what's going on in someone else's world. And if we can take that step back and understand that, okay, it could just be that they're a bad driver. Who knows? But there could be more to the story. And if that was you in that situation and maybe something devastating had just happened to you and people were road raging, it's not helping your situation. If we can have some compassion towards the situation, it doesn't have to be compassion towards a person, but ideally compassion towards a person because we don't know what they're going through, and just let it be a moment in time. Let's not create a story about it, because lots of people, the people that are road raging in that situation, they're going home and they're taking that energy home, and the ripple effect of that is unnecessarily negatively affecting people, likely because they come home, they're mad and they want to talk about how this person was just inconsiderate and driving like whatever. You've just allowed all that energy to be taken on by yourself unnecessarily. So as Dawn said, and we've said this in the past, each of us has the ability to choose how we respond to a situation. The situation that you're coming up against, if you can just take that step back and just be in wonderment, just observe the situation and say, maybe there's more to it. I'm not going to take it personally because it's not about me. Whatever's going on in that person's world is about them. It's not about me. So just to have that little more compassion, I think, is part of spiritual growth and awakening, because we're starting to look at the world bigger than this black and white, right and wrong situation. It is way more than that. Yes, there's gray in everything. There's always layers. There's layers to every story.
So true. And the energy of the situation, I was just sending love because I know that I could feel the negative energy. And I'm like, I don't want to have that happen in my day, because I was going to work, and who wants to, start off work on the wrong foot or feeling that, that pull of, oh, it could have been like a test. I don't even know what it was. We're always being tested. If you feel like you're repeating a cycle, it's because you haven't broken that cycle yet. And that is the test. The universe is saying, hey, this is going to keep repeating. Are you going to finally take the higher road and break out of it, or are you just going to keep recycling and recycling? And it's easier to see when you take that step back from that cycle and look and say, you know what? I'm not going to participate today. I'm done with this, and move on. And a lot of times people get scared, but it's that scaredness that you have to overcome, because that is holding you back from your ultimate true growth.
Absolutely. Every time people find themselves in those situations that, nothing's going right and like everything's just happening wrong to me and they're a victim, and well, no, I'm going to burst your bubble. But no, as soon as we feel like a victim, we've created some story around a situation. If things are happening around you, you're the common denominator. So if things are going wrong in, like, this isn't going right, or, this keeps happening, we're the common denominator. I don't know what other way to say it. So then take that step back and say, if someone else was telling you the story of what you're experiencing, so you're hearing it like a third-party story, and maybe you have to tell it to yourself that way. Tell the story, remove yourself as I, but just speak about it as a third person, so that you can observe the situation to say, okay, are there commonalities in what I'm experiencing, because maybe there's a common thread. Maybe it's been infidelity, or, someone keeps wronging you, whatever it's a story. Whatever the situation is, as Dawn said, it's coming back to you. It'll keep coming back to you until you can truly observe the lesson. And with every lesson, there's an opportunity for growth. So instead of being a victim, yes, shitty things happen. And, if you want to process the feelings, I'm not saying suppress the feelings by any means. You need to process the feelings because that's part of the growth. But recognize that, okay, this is showing up because there's a lesson for me. And it's not easy. I'm not saying this is easy. This does take work. So don't expect this is just going to magically happen for you. And if it does, great. But the sooner you can pick up the lesson out of it, there is an opportunity for massive growth, because we can say, okay, I wasn't the victim. I was maybe a player in the story, and I want to rewrite the story. That's the opportunity. We have the ability to rewrite our story however we want and we'll talk about this in manifestation, but putting out what you want instead of what you don't want, and you'll start shifting those things. So the point of bringing this up is, if these situations are coming up to you, you're on a spiritual awakening path, you're on a growth path, and they're coming up because it's a lesson. It's a soul lesson. You might have had past lives where you've had it play out in a similar way. Like Dawn was saying, is this just karma coming back to me? Well, no, they're all lessons. And take the opportunity to grow, move past it. And there is a big reward on the other side, folks. I can tell you that. When you can truly look at the lessons, it's not that you're condoning anything, or, go back and listen to our forgiveness episode if you hadn't listened to it already. We talk lots about this. You're not condoning anybody's behavior by learning the lesson and moving forward. You're giving yourself power to expand and grow. And that's beautiful.
Yes. And I know it's easy to get caught up and have a lot of self-doubt and self-sabotage because of it, because you feel like, oh, things aren't going my way. But that's us trying to control the situation. And I feel like, we're kind of taught like you can control the situation, but sometimes you have to live in the universal flow of what is happening to know that even if you're not in control, it is going how it is planned. And I will tell a story next time, because it's not time to tell the story yet, of how something that I wasn't too happy with that happened over the summer, but it ended up giving me the signs of, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It may feel wrong in the moment that you're living it, but it's going to come out with a great ending. Just because you can't see that ending, there were steps that had to happen in between. And it did have a beautiful, part one had a beautiful sign where I thought, okay, it didn't turn out like how I wanted, but to make this day end well, if something appeared, and that thing appeared. And I'm like, all right, thank you for showing me the sign that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because sometimes you feel like I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I've lost my mind. But really, you're sane, because the universe is saying, well, you had a mission, but you can't be told that you're having a mission. Because if I told you have a mission, you might be like, take it in a totally different mind perspective. So sometimes you have things that you need to do and go places that you need to go without even knowing that you're supposed to go there.
That's a great point, that, when we got caught up in the stories and things that are going around us, we miss those beautiful divine gifts that we're giving, those little nuggets to say we are on the right path. And just because a path doesn't look like the way you think it does, doesn't mean it's not the right path. So I think that's really key, because one of the things we do too is we focus on those material things, like we're caught in the 3D buying expensive things, like we're here to earn money. And yes, that is a function of what we have to do. We're working, earning money, because that's how we function in the world. But it doesn't bring you that happiness. Those are just things. They are the materialistic. It's kind of like that ego versus higher self, is then you get stuck in having more, gaining more. And really, we find the love within ourselves. That's what it's all about.
And I think that's important. We, in the education system, they don't talk about the love that we're supposed to have for our fellow everything, our animals, the plants. We've really lost the sacredness of how we treat each other. The greetings, what is in what they say is popular, the trending verbiage that we're taught. Look at how language has changed. I don't think it's gotten any better. If anything, I think, at times we've gotten worse in the words that we use towards each other. It is hard to break the habit, like in our conscious languaging, of using those words. But really, we need to bring the sacredness back to how we speak to each other, how we speak to our animals, the land, because as we embody love, we're taking that love with us everywhere we go. And our energy is affecting everything, even the ground that we walk upon, it is affecting it. I have seen in sessions the love flow through, and that is a powerful healing tool that as Aurora practitioners that we use to help affect everyone on a soul level when we do our healings.
I love that you brought up talking about feelings, because I'm sure many people are empaths without even being aware that you're an empath. And when you're going through these spiritual awakening and growth phases, and it's not necessarily a constant thing, you'll go in waves where you might just have a whole bunch of things you're dealing with, and then it'll be calm for a while, and then you'll have another wave of things. So kind of expect that as well, that your spiritual growth cycle, it's going to be cyclical, I guess is a good way to put it. But you will likely notice that your feelings, your sensitivities are going to be heightened. A lot of us are kind of disconnected. We're binge watching shows, or we're on our phones scrolling social media, I don't know where the last hour went. And once you can when you're starting to go through that spiritual awakening and growth, you feel like you can start feeling things more in your body. You might notice more aches and pains because maybe you've been numbing things before, or as you're processing different emotional things, maybe start looking up what the spiritual meaning of a sore left hand is, or whatever it might be, because you might find that you're processing some lessons, but you're feeling it inside our body. Because a lot of times, if we're not dealing with our emotions on that surface level, they're going to go inside. So you might become more aware of what's going on inside your body and around you. You might have different people coming into your awareness because you're starting to open up. You might have like spiritual teachers start to come in and go, oh, I haven't heard of that person before. And they might just be at that right time of a lesson that you're going through, and that they've got some nugget of information that's going to help you get through that. So keep an eye open for those kinds of things that are going to pop up. And one of the other things I wanted to talk about, this one's big for me. I still have it, but I was getting deja vu as long as I can remember. I remember having deja vu and not really understanding what it meant. You can look up online. There's a few ways to describe it, but what I have learned to understand for deja vu is that it helps me know that I'm on the right path. It seems to be, that's how I've been able to connect my deja vu. I've been in this exact moment, this exact place with this person, this situation, and it lets me know that I'm on the right track. And it's really beautiful. Like I could have had that in a dream, and that's why it comes into a deja vu. I've been there before. Another thing that you're going to be more aware of is your dreams could become more vivid. So if you notice that your dreams are becoming vivid and, you're really processing things, because a lot of times our dreams, we're processing things that are happening in our life, that is also a sign that you're in your spiritual awakening. Things are happening and shifting. And allow it. Have compassion for yourself during these times. With that heightened sensitivity, you're more connected to the universe, to others. You're going to feel more compassion and empathy, but don't forget about yourself. Feel that compassion and empathy to yourself, because as your heart opens and you're bringing in more joy, the pain can be there as well. And your body and your heart's just learning how to expand and work through that, because you don't ever want to suppress what's coming up for lessons. You need to work through it. A lot of people call it shadow work, but you need to work through those situations.
It's so true. And I was just thinking when you said deja vu, if you're a seer, you can see those timelines. And sometimes those timelines need to be cleared. And sometimes those timelines need to be lived. And I saw a timeline of my husband and I traveling, and I really didn't want to travel because I'm more of a homebody. And I was just like, please, I don't want to do this timeline. But I'm like, but if I want A, I can't get it by not doing this. So when you're shown a timeline, if you are a seer, know that sometimes that is the spiritual growth that you need to do to make the ball roll in the right direction. And it's a gift. And at the same time, it's just like for somebody who likes to be home with my animals and my plants and stuff. And it's not a curse, but I realize that sometimes I just need to energetically go out in the world more and not be such a homebody.
Well, and I think that's an important point to make, because things do start shifting in your world, and you might find that you are wanting to become more of a homebody if you were a person that was used to going out with friends. As your energy vibration is raising, not everyone is going to match that vibration. So you might find relationships that you've had for years and years, maybe they're childhood relationships, you're all of a sudden no longer a match energetically with that person. And so those people might fall away. So just be aware of that. It's okay. Everybody is meant to be in our lives for the entire time. They're maybe there for lessons that we're learning, but just know that nothing's wrong. It's the universe only knows energy. Energy matches energy, whether it's a high vibration or a low vibration. That's what we attract. So as you're growing, and I don't like the word enlightened because we're just going to cancel that. So as you expand your energy vibration and become more aware of things in your life, you will sense those people that aren't being authentic with you or that are manipulating you. It will actually become easier to see. That's what I've noticed. And someone will come into our lives for some reason, and it's like the person's wearing a mask. Like you can just see it on them that they're not being authentic, and it actually is kind of comical sometimes, because you just read through the crap that much faster and sooner, and that's a good thing, because then you don't have to take any of that on, and you don't have to have that person in your life, and that's okay. I love it when people come in and it's like, in the past I might have really tried to befriend them, and because we think it's the right thing to do to be nice and include everybody. If they're not a matching vibration to me, I'm sorry, but I don't want to bring down my energy vibration level because of them not doing the work and raising their vibration. It's just a mismatch, and you can feel it, and it's not fun. And who wants to be in that low vibration once you've experienced coming out of it?
And it's so much easier to cut cords once you recognize that and do a cord cutting at the end of the day. People have a hard time moving on when they realize that they're going in a different direction. They're like, well, that this person, don't make excuses, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen, that you're going to stay friends. And if it's not meant to happen, it's okay. We're all here to grow. And some people just come in and out. Like I see like a school fish, like this fish is going this way and this fish is that. And maybe they're going to join one time and maybe not. And that is a-okay, because we're all going through life in a energetic way that our paths may cross and they may not. And that is okay. And it's a beautiful dance.
It certainly is. And you're right, because we are all on our own journeys, not everyone's going to follow the same path as you. Maybe their soul signed up to learn the different lessons and learn them in a different way than what you're learning in. And all you can do is share where you're coming from, and it's up to them whether they want to match you where you're at. Free will. Go back and listen if you haven't listened to free will. It's our free will to go through the process the way we want, and it's their free will to do the way they want. So if you're finding those relationships falling away, you can mourn them, because sometimes it is a relationship that you need to mourn, but don't stay in that energy. Mourn the relationship, energetically thank the universe for the lessons that person helped you with, or whatever the case might be, and move through it. Really just be in that awareness of where you are and that will help you to know where you're going.
And I always end it with sending love, because I see so much love is needed in this time and space. It just feels like it seals the whatever has transpired between or needs to grow. So I always send love and kind of wrap it up in a package, and just energetically every day I send it to those people that were in my life that may not be in my life, and maybe they'll come back around. I don't know. I'm not looking to foretell the future right now, because sometimes it's just as exciting to be living in the moment.
You bet. And I think as we wrap up this session and look forward to our next episode about manifesting, I think an important piece that we'll continue on with is surrendering. So you've done all this work, you've processed some lessons, you've gone through the shadow work. The shadow work isn't about anything being bad. It's just work that you need to do to process. Learn those lessons, find those opportunities, but then surrender to the process. We are not meant to control what the universe is doing. So releasing those old beliefs, the old parts of your ego that were trying to control things, those structures that no longer serve you, because you'll be aware more of those old belief systems and things that no longer serve us, it's okay to let them go. You did the best that you could at that moment in time, and now you've become a different vibration. I don't want to say different person, because we ultimately have this body, but it's part of our soul is evolving. So we do naturally change. And so just surrender and allow that change to flood your being. Trust that the universe has your back and that your soul is here for your highest good.
Beautiful. And yes, it may feel scary in the moment, but once you let go and realize that you are always fully protected because you shield yourself and you're living in the moment, things will fall into place. And sometimes it's the lack of, I don't know if lack of control is, but the allowing yourself to be in full surrender. It is a beautiful process that if we could stand back and watch, and sometimes you can look in life events and look at it in that way and realize the beauty of the one little piece was put into place, which helped another, and you thought it was going to go one way, and then it went off in another direction. And it's so beautiful sometimes. It's like, wow, that all happened because I chose to make that one step. So embrace the moment and love it. It might not feel right when you're in it, but know that there's always a lesson. And yes, we're going to have a little bit of doubt, but that's okay. That's part of the process.
And that just leads us into our next episode when we talk about manifesting, things that you can do and things that will work against manifesting. So stay tuned for our next episode. Follow, subscribe, and share Embrace the Spiritual on all podcast streaming services, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Go to embracethespiritual.com for additional content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression or raw Reiki session, contact Dawn on her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com, and Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com.
Infinite love and gratitude. Thank you for joining us.